So a conversation came up, and the conversation came up of how do you actually identify your movement? What identifies you? What if you were to have a flag? What would your flag be, right? And the conversation spun into the Whiskey Rebellion flag, and me being someone who loves history, briefly heard about it, right? So I was intrigued. Like, well, what more about the Whiskey Rebellion? Like, what was it more about? Well, you have to remember, at the end of the Revolutionary War, we fought a war against taxation without representation. We fought against not being taxed on things. We didn't want to be burdened down quite a bit. So what happened was they decided that to pay for the war, they would put a tax on whiskey production. Now, there was two versions of this tax. You could pay a flat rate, or you could pay by the gallon. See, and this is where it kind of goes into big business and small business, right? Big business had no problem paying a flat rate tax. They could afford the fee. They were cranking it out in mass production. The small business could not afford that regulation tax, and the by gallon tax basically crippled any profits. So you're basically sitting and saying that Company A, who's the mega company, reaps the benefits and can afford it and can also shut out all competition. Company B, who's the small guy, small mom and pop thing, trying to make a living, feed his family, got shut down. So what happens, right? Well, what happens when you starve people out? What happens when you fought a war and you have all these people who are well-trained and pissed off and angry, and then you turn their backs on them? Well, the Whiskey Rebellion started. They rounded up people. They found any tax collectors trying to do it. They tarred and feathered them, or they set fire and burned their house down to the ground. They've treated them like the enemy. What happened next? Alexander Hamilton, I believe that was who he was, and George Washington rounded up a militia. At the point when both sides were getting there, the Whiskey Rebellion had around 5,000 to 7,000 people, which is amazing if you think about it. You can barely get 4 people together on a weekend, on a regular basis, to get together and shoot guns, train, do a little bit of PT and some hand-to-hand combat. You can barely get 4 people. But these guys managed to get 7,000. That shows you how fired they were. George Washington and Hamilton, they were able to get about 13,000. It was considered the first draft. They brought them to bear, and they wound up basically, the militia stood down. They had overwhelming odds against it, and they couldn't really do too much. They didn't want to fight it out, and they backed down, and a couple people were captured. They were considered treasonous, and they were going to be put to death. George Washington winds up basically pardoning them all. And you can see where it goes with this, because in a few years later, when Jefferson becomes president, Jefferson abolishes the tax. And it's kind of the birth of the Conservative Party that came out of it. Now, people might be mad, like, why did they fight? Why didn't they do this? It shows for a good example of not everything has to lead to bloodshed, and maybe not everything in that moment gets you where you want to be. But showing that force, showing up and being mad, and doing the damages that they did, it showed that they were a force to be reckoned with, and that, you know what, you keep doing this, you're going to lose everything that you fought for in the beginning. The government was going to lose everything they fought for. And it showed in a great deal of pride and commitment on the other side, on the militia. And it wound up happening. A leader like Jefferson saw it for what it is. He did not want to see a federalist government. He wanted states to have their own rights, and he wanted a limited government. And I think Jefferson was one of the few people, you could sit there and talk about the founders. Jefferson was one of the few honest people in there. And everybody wants to follow the founder, right? Well, they're men. So, you know what? Every man is a sinner, right? So you can't fault everything and say they're 100% angel or perfect, right? And it's true, but it's unfortunate that within the first decade of this country's birth, we had to go to war against our own people because they wanted to tax people to death already. And I think it shows. Look at it now. You can't even start a business now without over-regulation, over-taxation, and it's all designed to keep you down. It's designed to prevent you and frustrate you from doing it. The taxes are set up to frustrate you and basically penalize you for every step of the way. In a big corporation, well, yes, they maybe started out small and they got big and they passed all these things. They have the ability to lobby against you and make it even worse. Look at all the farming industries, look at all the things. They can basically regulate you to death. And this is the rebellion that I think that stands. And I'll be posting a picture of the Whiskey Rebellion flag. And it's the flag that we're going to be flying from our house right now. I believe it because it stands for what we believe in now. And I believe there's a lot of movement behind it that I think we shouldn't do. Or should do, sorry. If you believe in this, leave a comment. Let me know if I got the history right. I did watch a couple documentaries on it, and I formed an opinion based on myself. I would like to see what you guys think about it. It's Raven Tactical, and we're out.